Luke, the first chapter, verse 74, that he would grant unto us that we, being delivered out of the hand of our enemies, might serve him without fear. Luke 23:46, and when Jesus had cried with a loud voice, he said, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. And having said thus, he gave up the ghost. I want you to note this denotes a willing surrender. Into thy hands. In the garden, there was a willing surrender. Not my will, but thine be done. And if we have the power and the ability to willingly surrender our spirit into his hands, we also have that same power to remove our life from his hands. In John 10:28, and I will give unto them eternal life, and they shall neither perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. My Father who gave them me, is greater than all, and no man is able to pluck them out of my Father's hands. I want to talk for a few moments today on God's hands are the very safest place that you can live. Would you say with me, God's hands are the very safest place that you can place your life. And would you say with me, into thy hands I commend my spirit. Amen. God bless you. You can be seated today. The Bible emphatically says that in his hands no evil can befall you. The Bible emphatically tells us that if we are in the hands of God, no harm can come to you. It emphatically said no man, no trial, no situation can pluck you out of the hands of God. When you are in the hands of God, hell must get permission before it tempts you. For God will not allow you to be tempted above what you're able to bear. When you are in the hands of God, hell must go through the hands of God to get to you. So when facing temptation, I want you to know the very safest place you can be is in the hands of God. Would you say it with me? In temptation, the very safest place I can be is in the hands of God. You understand, on my own, I am no match for the tricks of the devil. On my own, I'm no match for the devices and the manipulations and the weapons that he can form against me. On my own, I cannot even resist my own fallen nature. For every man is tempted when he's led away of his own lusts. And on my own, if I am not in the hands of God, I will self-destruct. Proverbs 11 says, the righteousness of the perfect shall direct his way, but the wicked shall fall by his own wickedness. The righteous of the upright shall deliver them, but the transgressor shall be taken in their own naughtiness. If God is my helper, I can make it. But if I ever take myself out of the hands of God, I will self-destruct as I become my own conscience, my own guide, and my own justification. This word transgressor here means somebody who knowingly begins to cross boundaries. The root idea of this word transgression is people who get in a habit of stepping over the line. They get in a habit of violating the limits that God has placed upon them. They begin to rebel against things they knowingly have been instructed to do. And it's not ignorance. Would you say it with me? It's not ignorance. It's the willfully crossing of lines. And there is something in the fallen nature of man that wants freedom without submission. So it willfully runs towards sins, and it begins to run away from the hands of God. The word lasciviousness is when sin's desire is no longer hidden or resisted, but it's embraced without restraint. And I'm not trying to be perverse, but we had a little dog one time named Princess, and it was the best dog in the world till she was in heat. And a spirit would take over her. She'd look at you and run the other. And I'm here to tell you, there's something in the fallen nature of man that when it wants to sin, it takes itself out of the hands of God so it can run with abandonment towards sin. But when you're tempted, the safest place you can be is in the hands of God. In his hands, all things work together for our good. It does not say that all things are good, but he has promised to take the negative and to infuse enough positive that energy is created and good will come from the negative. You see, it's a fact of life. You have to have both positive and negative currents for there to be power. And if there's no negativity in your life, there can be no power in your life. And if when negative things come into your life, you do not withdraw your life from the hands of God, God will infuse your world with enough positive things that good things will begin to happen in your life because of the negative. For when we are in the hands of God, all things work together for our good. I've noticed as a pastor that some people only pray when things are falling apart. I've noticed as a pastor there are others who only pray when things are going well, and both positions are extremely immature. One treats God like an emergency exit while the other treats him like some celebration accessory. But prayer was never meant to be seasonal. Prayer is how we stay connected to the hands that are keeping us. And a man who only prays in trouble usually forgets God in peace. And a man who only prays in blessing is not prepared for the battle. So if you only pray in crisis, you will panic when trouble comes. If you only pray in comfort, you will collapse when the pressure comes. And consistent prayer, would you say it with me? Consistent prayer is what keeps a man or a woman in the hands of God. I'm here to talk to you today about the safest place you can be is in the hands of God. When people speak well of you, when you cannot find a friend, the safest place you can be is in the hands of God. When life is easy sailing and when all hope is gone, the safest place you can be is in the hands of God. When you are at the peak of your physical paralysis and when every cell of your body is full of death, the safest place you can be is in the hands of God. When you have answered the spiritual call of God and you're living right, and when you have sinned and utterly failed, the safest place you can be is in the hands of God. For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, and to give you an expected end. This was said about Israel when they were in captivity because of their habitual sin and lascivious lifestyle and their rebellion against God. And I want you to know, even when you are being corrected sorely by God, the safest place you can be is in the hands of God. The Bible said, the thief cometh not but to steal, to kill, and destroy, but I am come that you might have life and you might have it more abundantly. And there are cultures of life and liveliness, and there are cultures of death, steal, kill, destroy. And the promises of God are to those who are in his hand, that it is a culture of life and not of death. And I want you to remember, David was a man after God's own heart. But David struggled with some of the same things we struggle with at times. And at times David struggled with trusting God. And at times David struggled with having faith in God when his human reasoning and his human eyesight got ahead of where his faith was. And I want to look at 3 of these times when David took himself, or was tempted to take himself, out of the hands of God. Because if David had to struggle with this, I promise you, somewhere in your life, you're going to have to deal with the temptation of taking yourself out of the hands of God. And in Samuel, the 27th chapter, verse 1, David begins to flee from his heart. And it says, "And David said in his heart, I shall now perish one day by the hand of Saul. There is nothing better for me that I should speedily escape the land of the Philistines. And Saul shall despair of me to seek me anymore in the coast of Israel. And so I shall escape out of his hands." I want you to notice 2 phrases here. The first one and the last one. David said in his heart, I shall escape out of his hands. And David started listening upward, and David beginning to reason outward. David's problem was not merely that he ran to the Philistines. His problem began when fear became louder in his life than the voice of faith. And David said, I shall now perish, even though God had said, you shall reign. And when the voice of the devil, when the voice of your own human reasoning is louder than the voice of faith, we are all tempted to take ourselves out of the hands of God and to guide our own path and to find our own answers and seek for our own protection. There was a time after David was anointed king and after he had slain Goliath that David, confused and discouraged, went and hid his parents and his family among the Philistines. The Bible lets us know it lasted about 16 months. And not one psalm is written during this time. We cannot find one time that David prayed, and we cannot find one time that God's name is mentioned. Leading up to this time, we can see time after time that Saul tried to kill David. And the Bible said that David knew that Saul secretly practiced mischief against him. And there were multiple attempts to have David killed. And Saul did multiple things, made promises, and tried to manipulate circumstances to bring about the destruction of David, where he could do it covertly and his hands would not be exposed. But still, Saul was wanting to kill David, and David knew that Saul was trying to destroy him. And I don't know what happened, but a switch was flipped one day, and Saul went from secretly practicing mischief to actively throwing jables. And the temptation is for every young man and every young woman to wrench the javelin out of the wall and learn to throw them back. And David escapes multiple assassination attempts. Finally, Michal and Jonathan, Saul's 2 children, convince him that he needs to flee for his life. And so David runs for his life. And sometimes the best answer is simply to walk away from a battle. It takes courage to stand and to fight. But sometimes it takes greater courage simply to walk away and to let God decide who is right and who is wrong and what is fair. For vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. And it takes courage to fight. But it takes courage to trust. God. I'm amazed at the poetic nature of God. And while David is fleeing for his life, and while Saul has put bounty on him and is actively pursuing him, God on multiple occasions put Saul within the grasp of David. One time, David and his men are hiding in a cave, and Saul came in, and the Bible discreetly calls it covered his feet. But Saul is in there in a position of vulnerability, and the men gathered around David are like, surely the Lord has delivered you. Rise up and smite him. And David is so convinced of God. He's so big in faith of God. He said, I cannot sin and do this wicked thing in the sight of God. And so as Saul leaves, David comes out and begins to scream from a hilltop. And you know the story. He said, I could have got you today, Father, if I was the evil man you thought I was, but I didn't touch you. And I did cut off the skirt of your garment. And right here's proof I could have killed you. If I was the man you said I was, you'd be a dead man. Sometimes the best answer is to stand and fight. But sometimes the right answer is to walk away and let God decide what is right and what is wrong and what is fair and what is just. And David came to a place he was simply trying to survive. And angry and despondent and fearful for his own life and his family, David takes his protection of his own self and his family out of the hands of God. And he goes and lives among the Philistines. And the Bible said he became a vassal of the king of the Philistines. And for 16 months, David travels trying just simply to survive. Whereas his early life was denoted fighting for God and fighting for God's cause and fighting the enemies of God, this season of his life is denoted by raiding and killing for the need of substance. David would raid small villages and kill everybody, man, woman, child, lest anybody be left alive to tell the king of the Philistines who had done this thing. And David became a very bloody man. David's hands are against every man, and every man's hands are against David. And I want you to know sin will take you farther than you want to go. And it'll keep you longer than you wanted to stay. And it'll cost you more than you ever thought you would pay. One day the king of the Philistines said, I want to test your loyalty today. We're going to go fight with Israel, and you're going to come fight with us. And David and his men light up side by side with the Philistines, and they're ready to go to war against the people of God. When killing, when using your mouth, when defending yourself against your enemies, no matter who they are, becomes the logic of your life, no one is safe. When you start defending everything in your life against everyone in your life, no one is safe. I'm sure if we would approach David there as the young shepherd boy and told him someday you're going to be lined up side by side with the Philistines ready to go to war against Israel, he would have said it would never happen. But I'm here to tell you, when you take yourself out of the hands of God and you become an expert in the use of the sword, no one is safe. David had tried. He had done everything in his power to live peaceably among his people. One time, David, the Bible said he was like a wall. I can't remember the guy's name. He was like a wall to him and his wife, and the enemies could never get to him. And David wouldn't let him get to him. Let me find my note. Let me find that. Where's that at? Well, I'll skip it. Doesn't matter. It'll come to me. So the Philistines, one of the princes says, send him away. We don't trust him. And he arrives back at Ziklag. And as David comes back to Ziklag, the city's been burned. His wife and children, their possessions are gone. And the men begin to murmur and talk about, we're going to kill David. And I want you to listen to me. When you take yourself out of the hands of God, you also take yourself out of the protection of God. And in his hands is the very safest place that you could be. And so in the backdrop of losing everything and men talking against him, the Bible said David begins to pray. I want you to listen to me. When you begin to pray, it does not take 16 hours. It does not take 16 days. It does not take 16 years or 16 months for God to answer. But if you will begin to pray, God will answer you. And there's a way out of every problem that you have caused in your own life. I know the problem is there because you're smarter than God and you're wiser than God. And you've taken yourself out of the hands of God. But if you will put yourself back in the hands of God, God will answer you. And the safest place for you to be when you are confused and disillusioned is in the hands of God. And David knew what he was doing. There was clarity of facts. He knew everything he had done. He knew the righteousness of his own life. And David knew everything that Saul was doing. There was the clarity of facts. And the devil always made sure one messenger got through to David to tell David about what Saul was doing. But David had no idea what God was doing. And in your confusion right now, whoever you are, I want to tell you, never underestimate what God could be doing in your behalf. Our text in Luke 1:74 says that he would grant unto us that we, being delivered out of the hand of our enemy, might serve him with fear, might serve him without fear. Philippians 1:28, and in nothing terrified by your adversary, which to them is an evident token of perdition, but unto you salvation and that of God. For unto you it is given in behalf of Christ, not only to believe on him, but also to suffer for his sake. 1 John 4:18, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear has torment, and he that feareth is not made perfect in love. And fear is a bully. Would you say it with me? Fear is a bully. And it kicks in the door of your mind, and it demands to live on center stage. Fear is a relentless taskmaster that requires the toil of your mind 24/7. Worry, would you say it with me? Worry is the feminine form of fear. And it seduces you with a million questions of what if. It hones in on our natural insecurities and separates us from our two greatest allies, hope and trust. And when hope and trust are gone, it locks us in a lonely world of isolation, cellmates to fear and paranoia. And fear makes enemies out of families. Fear makes enemies out of best friends, for the Bible says fear has torment. One of the major components of hell is fear. Fear is the tool of the devil to hold you immobile. Fear paralyzes accomplishment, kills hope, and crowds out faith. For all the time that fear has extracted from our lives, it has never accomplished anything of lasting value. By worry and fear, you cannot add one more minute to your life, one more dollar to your saving, or repair one broken relationship. And is it any wonder? In Jesus' earthly ministry, one of the first words out of his mouth was, do not be afraid. To the Virgin Mary, the angel said, fear not, for thou hast found favor with God. Oftentimes this greeting was in direct conflict with what their eyes could see and their minds could understand. To Joseph, the espoused husband of Mary, he said, do not be afraid, for that which is conceived in her. Faith is the opposite of what your eye sees and what your mind understands. And faith will have you submit to God. Faith will have you to submit to the process of God. Whereas your own carnal reasoning will have you remove yourself from the hands of God. And the safest place you can be is in the hands of God. To Jairus, the Lord said, fear not, believe only, and she shall be made whole. What a conflicting message. Your daughter is dead. Do not be afraid. Fear will make you take yourself from the hands. But the safest place you can be is in the hands of God. To the disciples, in the storm upon the sea alone came a walking man upon the sea, and he said, take heart, it is I am here, do not be afraid. And the Bible said, and immediately there was a great calm. And the safest place you can be when you are confused and disillusioned is in the hands of God. And David prays. Would you say with me, David prays? And David submits to God. And God answers and says, pursue after, for you will recover all. And everything the enemy tried to steal, God returned. Don't ever allow fear to erode your confidence in the Almighty. Don't ever allow the actions of others to erode your confidence in God. For which cause I awful suffer these things, nevertheless I'm not ashamed. For I know in whom I have believed and am persuaded that he is able to keep that which I have committed unto him against that day. I'm here to tell you the safest place we can put our lives, the safest place we can put our righteousness, the safest place we can put our good deeds and acts is in the hands of God. Can you let faith stir here this morning? Come on, this ain't a lecture. This is a sermon. Can you let your faith stir? Come, can somebody let their faith stir right now? Would you? If somebody's taking themselves out of the hand, come on. Can you let something stir in you right now? Come on, can you bring every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ? I want you to know the safest place for you right now is in the hands. The second dark period of David's life is his sin with Bathsheba. And sin always separates us from God. And it's part of our fallen nature when we sin to pull away from God. And David's father Adam went and hid himself. But God went looking for Adam because God loved Adam too much to leave him like he was. And the crimes that David committed to cover his sin were much worse than his original sin. Lies, deception, murder were the tools he used to hide from God and from himself and from his action. And as in the garden, it's important to note that God came looking for David. And if God had not have went looking for Adam, Adam would still be hiding. And if God had not have went looking for David, David would still be hiding, lying, and covering from his sins, declaring to the world that he is right, hiding behind the crowd, hiding behind self-justification, self-importance, self-declared innocence. But David, when you sin, the safest place you can be is in the hands of God. If there's somebody in this room today who has sinned and failed, if in this service today God has come walking in your life calling your name, because God loves you too much to leave you like you are. I want you to know the safest place you can be is in. The safest place you can be when you have sinned. Is in the hands of God. The third great sin of David's life is when he sinned in numbering the people. And when the prophet appeared unto him and gave him a choice of what his options would be for God to correct him, David replied unto Gad, he said, I am in a great strait. Let us now fall into the hand of the Lord, for his mercies are great. And let us not fall into the hands of man. Having learned his lesson from the first two failures, David said, I want the hands of God. The Bible tells us every son that receiveth chastisement. And if you belong to God and you do wrong, God will spank you. God will not murder you. But if you sin and you belong to God, God will spank you. Many times people hide from God because they are afraid of God. But I want you to know God will discipline you, but God will not kill you. For the Son of Man did not come to destroy men's lives. I am come that you might have life and that you might have it more abundantly. I am come to save people from their sins. Can I tell you right now, God's not concerned about you having a happy marriage. He's worried about you having sin in your life. Can I tell you, he's not worried about you having a better house or a better life, but he is worried about the sin that is in your life. God's not worried about how comfortable or uncomfortable you are, but God is focused upon the sin that is in your life. And the safest place for us when God begins to deal with us as sons and not bastards is in the hands of God. And David said, let me fall in the hands of God. Shan. And everything God does with redemption in mind. Would you stand with me right now? I'm closer done than you know I am. Right now I want you to pray this with me. Into thy hands. Come on, would you say it out loud? Into thy hands I commend my spirit. Let go and let God have his wonderful way. I don't want you to do this, baby. Let go and let God have his wonderful way. Your sorrow will vanish, your night turn to day. Let go and let God have his wonderful way. And if you're on a mountaintop today, the safest place you can be is in the hands of God. If others are trying to destroy your life, the tactics, the plans, the actions, you know what they're doing. The safest place you can be is in the hands of God. But if you have failed, and there's sin in your life today,
Jesus is the best thing I've ever
I want you to know the safest place for you to be right now are in an altar. And in the hands of God. Would you pray that with me right now? God, into thy hands I commend my spirit. Come on, would you help me pray that right now? God, into thy hands I commend my spirit. Come on, would you pray that right now? Into thy hands I commend my spirit, God. You're God, you're God, you're God. Come on, right now, why don't you reach for him? I don't know who you are. I don't know what you've done. I don't know what you haven't done. But I want you to know the safest place for you to be when you have sinned is in the hands of God. Falling in love with Jesus.